PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to the Grandmother Rae podcast. I am Rae Everlasting, and I am a pipe carrier grandmother of the Bird clan by lineage. My intention for this podcast is to assist each of us in living a more holistic life through sharing the wisdom of the grandmother and the ancestors. So gather round, because the grandmother is in. Well, welcome, beautiful souls. It's so great to be here with you again for another episode of the Grandmother Rae podcast. How have you been? I've missed you. It's been a month. In some respects, it seems like that month went by super fast. And in some respects, it seems like it was a long time since I saw you last. Our topic for this month is, are you breathing? Before we get into the breathing part of it, I wanted to share with you very quickly my why for doing this particular topic. Some of you know that back in 2008 to 2009, I had an experience with cancer. In that process, I was so blessed and gifted to work with some European doctors and some naturopathic doctors, and just have some wonderful people in my life at that time for that part of my journey. One of the things that I was told while I was on that part of my journey is the importance of keeping the body healthy so that it can create a space of well-being. One of the biggest things that I learned during that time was the importance of the body being at a balanced pH. Now, I've always been a huge proponent of balance. Balance is so important. For me, balance is a way that we maintain harmony within. And because of how we are created and this life experience that we have, that harmony that we cultivate and nurture and nourish within automatically radiates out of us, contributing to the world around us and the life that we experience. When I was going through this process, one of the things that I learned about keeping that balance within and the importance of that was, I was told that in order for dis-ease to exist in the body, and when we're talking about dis-ease, we're talking about disharmony, the internal system being out of harmony. One of the big things that was shared with me was that in order for dis-ease to survive in the body, it requires two things: low oxygen and high acid environment. When you oxygenate the system, when you alkalize, bringing the pH back to balance, not too alkaline, not too acid, but that beautiful balance. When you do these things for the body, it automatically restores the harmony, thereby no more dis-ease, because you've restored harmony. During that time, I did my own research. I worked with my doctors, and I discovered an article by Dr. Wheel that shared his research on breathing, and he had some breathing techniques that went along with that. What was fascinating about this was he said that The fastest way to restore that pH balance in the body, or to really to alkalize, start moving that acidic environment more towards an alkaline balance environment, was through the breath. And I began practicing with that because those of you who know me have learned that I love to get that research and study it and then play with it. Because to me, that's the fun part. That allows my inner child to come out and play. It allows all those parts of my being that love to just play to do so. So I started playing with it at the time, and just playing with different breathing techniques and just observing how that shifted my body, how it shifted my mind, how it helped me in different ways, just observing what happened as a result. So at this point, I would like to invite you to take a breath and notice your body. So we're going to start at the top of the head and just observe how the skin on your skull feels. And observe how the skin on your face feels. Is it tight? Are you feeling some tension, maybe in your jaw, around your eyes? Check your neck and your shoulders. I don't know about you, but my number one place that all the tension goes to, neck and shoulders, man, is just like. So check in on those neck, check on the shoulders, and then just keep going down. Just check the body and see how the body system feels right now with the way that you've been breathing so far this morning. All right, great. Now, let's pause and just breathe. Notice on the inhalation, how does the air feel as it flows past the tips of my nostrils? And how does it feel as I exhale? Is there a change in temperature? Is there a change in sensation? Now notice on the next inhalation, exhalation, notice your body. Notice the chest rises, the belly rises. And as you exhale, the chest falls, the belly falls. And just do this a couple more times, just breathing in and observing. And one more time. Now check in again. How is the skin on your head and your face? Is it a little less tight? Is it a little softer, a little more relaxed? What about your neck and your shoulders, your chest, your belly? How's everything feeling now that you've just paused for less than a minute, really? Just to breathe, just to focus all of your attention on your breath. How does it feel? One of the things that I notice for me is, because I currently I'm wearing 2 hats. I'm a COO of a corporation. I'm also, my shamanic practice is still ongoing, and I'm very blessed with that. And so one of the things that I notice is that when I take that moment, when I take that pause, it really brings everything together. We've talked in other episodes about how we separate out our life into boxes. And for those who watched the episode, you'll remember I highly recommend burning those boxes and having a bonfire and dancing and whatever makes you feel good. With the breath, what I've noticed is how much more often I'm aware. Now, this is as a result of practicing. Understand that as we are creating habits or uncreating habits that no longer serve us, the brain research shows that it takes 28 consecutive days to create a habit. Whether we are changing out a habit, in other words, taking a habit that no longer works for us and choosing a new one, or whether we're simply inviting a new one. For instance, and this actually happened, I totally forgot about the breathing. This is one of the things, no matter where you're at in your journey, we're human. Yes, we're spiritual beings, we're soul in a body, whatever your belief system is around that, but we're also human. And we get busy with life and we forget those tools that we've put in our tool bags over the years. And I absolutely forgot about being consciously aware of my breath. And to me, that's the difference when I say, are you breathing? There's breathing for survival. And you all know what that feels like. It's how I felt before I started my breathing exercises this morning, my breathing practice. Breathing just enough for the body to survive. That's that automated breathing that we do that our body does for us so that it can survive. It's like, dude, you're not paying attention to this, so I've got to pay attention to it for you. So we're going to breathe enough to keep you alive. But how is that contributing to your well-being? What I've noticed since I started up my practice again, I had a dear, dear friend that reminded me of Wim Hof breathing. I've done Wim Hof breathing before with spectacular results. Life got busy. I chose to stop doing that. I chose to make other things important. Remember, choice is our superpower. It's not that stuff got in the way. It's I chose. I chose to make other things important, more important than my breathing practice. And a dear friend recently reminded me of the Wim Hof breathing method, and I began doing it again. And what I had forgotten about breathing practices, whether it's the heart coherence breathing practice, whether it's any of the pranayamas, which I adore, several of the pranayama breathing techniques, whether it's the Wim Hof or the box breathing, the one thing that I notice with the breathing is when I become consciously aware of my breathing and I begin that practice, the more I practice, the more I become more aware of my breathing. What's fascinating for me about that is as I become more and more aware of how I'm breathing on a regular basis, the more I start noticing how quickly the breath gets shorter and life-sustaining, not life-nourishing. And I notice it the most when I'm engaged in like driving, networking, connecting with people. And a lot of times I notice it when I'm working on projects with the company or with my own projects. I'll be going along. All of a sudden I realize, oh, I kind of stopped breathing. And then I'm conscious of that breath again. And I'm making those choices again based on, am I breathing to survive, or am I breathing to flourish and thrive and nurture and nourish myself so that I am capable, I'm nourished, I'm nurtured, and I'm filled up with the oxygen that I require so that I can be of my best service to myself and to others. So these are some of the things I noticed. I also noticed the changes in my body and my mind. The mind, I think, fascinated me the most because what I noticed is that as I'm consciously breathing, my mind is calmer. It's less noisy. It's less chaotic. It's less like herding cats on a hot summer day in Vegas. It seems to calm that down. And when my mind starts rolling, because as we know, when we get really focused in on a project or focused in on life, any part of life, what we do is we're so focused on that, we forget to breathe. Then the mind starts racing, then the body tenses up, and then I'm just like, ugh. And how quickly, when I'm in that state, I can go from that to literally one breath. And my mind calms and my body relaxes. That means my stress hormones are going down. So I don't have a lot of stress hormones running through my body, creating chaos. I don't have thoughts in that moment that are distracting. I can just relax. What I've noticed, and I know the research, and I could spout all the research, but I am really in a place where I would love to share with you that important component that sometimes gets overlooked. And that is, how does it make me feel? What am I feeling as a result of this? Because for me, that's what keeps me doing the breathing practices. That's what keeps me playing with the breath to see how it's doing. It's how it's making me feel. And yes, I know all the research, but that does not inspire me. I'm sure there's people out there that are inspired by the research, and that's what motivates them to continue a practice. For me, it's about how is it making me feel? Do I feel better before or after? Well, for me, the answer is after, obviously, because I'm talking about it right now with you. What I've noticed is as I'm more aware and as I'm catching myself more often, I'm spending more of my time every day living, existing, and being in a place where my body is soft and receptive to those healing energies that are always there. what I've noticed is that my mind is calmer and more quiet, so that when I require my mind to focus in on something, it's much easier. There's not so much noise going on. And I can really put my focused attention on something. By the way, that is the definition of meditation. That's a whole nother topic that I've done before that maybe we'll do it again. Meditation, when you look up, or when I looked up the definition anyway, it simply says focused attention. That's meditation. So whatever you're doing that brings you into a space of focused attention is your meditation. Whether it's washing the dishes by hand, which I love to do. That's a funny story that I'll share with you another time. Whether it's gardening, playing golf, playing baseball, or sitting, or laying down. Meditation is really about that focused attention. Well, when you're paying that focused attention to your breath and how you're breathing, then you're meditating. You're doing a breathing meditation. It's not necessarily a guided one, although I do guided breathing meditations. Any time during the day where I am or you are pausing to check that breath, checking those shoulders. Are they all tight? Ooh, I'm not breathing enough for my body to be relaxed. And I really like the feeling of my body when it's not tense and tight and stressed feeling. I really love the sensation of my brain not feeling like it's going to explode because there's so much information going through it at the time. There's those moments where it feels like it's this roaring rapids, whitewater rapids going on in my head. And that can get really uncomfortable. The breathing is what I've noticed really calms that down and quiets it down. And so it's interesting because for years, I'm like, how do you quiet that? How do you quiet that? How do you keep it a little less noisy in there? The fact that it came down to breathing was a really interesting observation on my part. And that's where I say, when you're practicing anything, when you come across something that you believe is going to benefit you, and you start a practice with it, I am such a huge proponent of play. Make it fun. Enjoy. Because primarily, if I'm treating it as play, if I'm treating it as something I'm going to have fun with, rather than, oh God, I got to wake up this morning and do my breathing, whatever, right? That's not sustainable in my world. I don't know about you, and I know there's people out there that, it's routine, so I'm going to do it. I just want to have fun with it. I've lived long enough. I just want to have fun. So I encourage you to have fun with it and play with it. I will be including some links in my posts. And if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, I offer a newsletter on my website. Go out and type in Rae Everlasting. You can find @Rae Everlasting. I have a link tree. But on my website, on my YouTube, in my newsletter, there are links to some of my favorite breathing practices. And I would really encourage you to play with it. Not everything is for everyone. I have this discussion with fellow practitioners all the time. And I love it when we're all in agreement that there are all these tools to assist us in our spiritual growth, in our physical healing, in our emotional healing, in our mental healing. There's so many tools out there. And one thing doesn't fit everything. It's not a one size fits all. So play with it. Find those breathing things that you can play with and have fun with and make it an adventure, and start practicing and see what you like about them. And if you get bored, if you're like me and it's like squirrel, squirrel, then don't, you can focus on one if you choose to, but I encourage you to try different ones so that you're not getting bored, so that you're staying engaged with it, so that you're really playing with it and having fun. The other thing I encourage you to do is, I have a journal. That's what works for me. But start noticing as you are playing with this, as you're playing with the breathing, as you're starting to observe more and more. When I'm driving in traffic and that person cuts me off and I immediately go, then I can remember, oh yeah, breathe, let it go. You're fine. Everything's fine. And let it go. Start noticing those things that you observe as your body and your mind and your emotions begin to come into alignment, because you are nourishing yourself with your breath now. You're nurturing yourself with your breath now. You are now consciously aware and making choices to make sure that your breathing is supporting your well-being, not just keeping you alive. So as we get closer and closer to our moment where we get to part ways again, let's spend just a couple more minutes really getting into this. And what I would like to do at this time is just guide you through a very quick, it's called box breathing. It's called box breathing because it's the same rhythm. In, out, hold, in, out, and hold. So we're going to do this really quickly. We've got a couple more minutes. Again, bring yourself back to your breath. And we're going to do a 3 count. Now, if you can do longer than 3, you're welcome to do longer than 3. If you can do less than 3, you're welcome to do less than 3. I had a Kundalini teacher that was beautiful when she said, wherever you are, start there, because it's not important where you are. The important part is starting. So we're going to inhale for 3 and hold for 3 and exhale for 3 and hold for 3 and inhale 3, 2, 1, hold 3, 2, 1, exhale 3, 2, 1, hold 3, 2, 1, inhale 3, 2, 1, hold 3, 2, 1, exhale 3, 2, 1, hold 3, 2, 1, and release. And what did you feel in that moment? For me, there was a little bit of tingling. There was a real emphasis on my chest, on my lungs, on my bronchia. And I feel better than I did before. With that, I bid you blessings of joy and peace, harmony, and bliss. Until next time, from my heart to yours, namaste.